Okay, Be'ez Hashem, I want to start a brand new series, a very exciting series, Steps Towards Better Tefillah. Something which is very, very important. I want to speak a little bit today about an introduction, but I believe this is a topic that if we work on now, this is going to help us for the rest of our lives, but not only for the future, but also now. Okay, Tefillah is something which we will be, Be'ez Hashem, will be explaining, is one of the most incredible tools that we have in our toolbox. And it is incredibly important to understand not only where does it come from, but how powerful it is. Okay, that's what I want to do. You know, I was walking down, a number of years ago, I was walking down Meir Sharim on the way to give a shir, and an Israeli guy comes over to me. He didn't look particularly, Haredi, religious even. He looked like, regular Israeli guy that wasn't particularly makpid on halacha, or makpid on the way he was dressed or what he was doing, whatever. It looked that way. And he stopped me, he says to me, do you have a moment? I said, I don't have that long, I have to give a shir somewhere. So he says to me, it's so natural for us that we're in a situation, we just talk to the Rabbeinu Shalom. But we have who to talk to. We have an address where to send our requests to. He said, when a person's not religious, a person's not Jewish, a person doesn't have a relationship with Hashem, he doesn't have who to turn to. And it's such an amazing, enlightening thing from someone who's, you wouldn't have thought is so involved in Tefillah, but yet he took Tefillah to be something so incredible. And it's such a powerful tool, and yet we do it 3 times a day. And how many people really value Tefillah? How many people work on their Tefillah? Chazal tell us in the Gemara in Brachas Lamed Beis, Chazal tell us, Tonu Rabbanon, Daled Tzrichin Chizuk. There are 4 things that require Chizuk, and one of them is Tefillah. Which means Chazal are telling us that Tefillah is one of those things that you constantly have to work on again and again and again, as we will see. Be'ez Hashem. The Mishnah, beginning of Perek Aleph and Pirkei Avos, Mishnah base. The Mishnah says, Al Shloisha Dvorim Ha'olam Oimed. The world stands on 3 things, right? On Torah, on Avodah, and Gemilas Chasadim. Rabbeinu Yonah explains, what does it mean, Al Shloisha Ha'olam Oimed? Says Rabbeinu Yonah, this is why the world was created. The world was created for what? For Avodah. Nowadays, Eza Avodah Gemara and Tainis, Tefillah. That means, according to Rabbeinu Yonah in the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, one of the reasons that the world was actually created was for Tefillah. Because we don't have a Beis HaMikdash, unfortunately. We don't have Karbonos, we don't have that Avodah, but we still have the Avodah of Tefillah. And that's why it's so important to realize what this is. The Gemara in Brachas, as I mentioned to you, constantly says that we need to be machazik in Tefillah. The Ma'or V'Shemesh, Parshas Kiseitzei, brings down that the Iker Mulchamas HaYetzer, can you hear this? The main war that the Yetzer Hara has on you is on Tefillah. He lets a person learn, he lets a person give tzedakah, lets a person do chesed. Oh, but davening, you want to have a relationship with Hashem. You want to talk to the Rabbeinu Shalom, you want to talk to your Creator. Oh, says the Ma'or V'Shemesh, the Iker Milchama is on that. That's an incredible thing that a person has to realize. The Medrash in Parshas Miketz brings down Ein Lecha Gedola Min HaTefillah. There is nothing greater than Tefillah, which is the most incredible thing. The Medrash Tanchuma, Parshas Vayera, brings down that even if a person doesn't deserve to get his Tefillahs answered, if he davens correctly, he will. The Gemara in Megillah, Chav Zayin Amud Aleph, the Gemara says, Gedola Tefillah mit Torah. Hear that? Gedola Tefillah mit Torah. What's the raya? The raya is from Elisha. The Mishnah Berurah, Chayim Kuvov, brings a Rekeach, and he says that if a person is mevatel Tefillah because of Torah, it's as if he learned nothing. I remember I was sitting once by Rebbe Zolor Bach Shlita, and Yeshiva Bacha came in, and he wanted to know that he was very into his learning. He wanted to know that if he spends longer davening, is that called bittul Torah on the Torah that he could have learned at that time? And Rebbe Zolor told him, Chas v'shalom. Torah has been, in fact, if you learn the Nefesh HaChaim from Chaim Volozhin in Shar Daled, so he brings over there the godless of Torah, and he says that if the world would exist with a moment that there would not be Torah being uttered at that moment, the world would go back to Torah Vavo. Can you imagine? If there would be a moment in the world that nobody would be learning Torah, the world would disintegrate, would go back to pre-existence. Why? Because we need Torah. Says the Nefesh HaChaim, this part people don't know so much. Rabbi Pinkus always said this over. The same thing was with Tefillah. Can you imagine if everyone has exactly what they need? Life is going great. Everyone has the shidduch they want. Everyone has the marriage they want, the kids that they want, the amount of kids that they want, the behavior of the kids that they want, the parnasa that they want, the tie that they want, the pair of shoes that they want, the car, the house, the vacation. Everyone has everything they need. You don't need to daven. So could you imagine, says Reb Chaim Volozhin, the Nefesh HaChaim Shadalit, that if a person doesn't need to daven and the entire world is that way, and you have a moment in the world when nobody will be davening, the world will go back to Toivovo. The world will go back to being nothing because there's no purpose of that. The purpose of creation, as Chazal is telling us, is to have a relationship with your Creator. How do you have a relationship with your Creator? You talk to Him. How do you talk to Him? You daven. That's what davening is. Okay? What's an incredible thing Reb Chaim Kanievsky brings in a Sefer Orchos Yosha, which is an incredible sefer that Reb Chaim Kanievsky wrote on things that people are generally being mezalzel in. He has a chedik at the back about that. And he says, the whole tikkun of the upper worlds is through tefillah. Every word of tefillah that a person utters is making tikkuning ein kates lematan schor, is the lashon of Chaim Kanievsky. There is no end. You can't imagine the reward that you'll be receiving for that. You know what that is? Chazal tell us in the Gemara in Brachos, ein lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'olama ela ladal amasel tefillah b'lvad. The Rebbeinu Shalom is holding by tefillah. Do you understand what this means? Tefillah is something that holds the world up. It's something that brings us connecting to our Creator. The Gemara in Brachos Chavav Amud Beis tells us as follows. And the Gemara tells us how each of our avos introduced tefillah into the world. And we know that Avram was Mesaken Shachris, Yitzchok was Mesaken Mincha, and Yaakov Avinu was Mesaken Marav, each to his own. So the Gemara tells us. Rav Eli Lopian explains like this. He explains that the role of the avos, right, were basically almost like the pioneers in the telephone industry. Right? What does it mean, the telephone industry? When they originally created this idea of the telephone, of picking up a phone, and you have a wire that goes into the ground and it goes somewhere else, and that reaches someone in America, and Australia, and South Africa, whatever it is, that was an incredible thing. And it was the people that laid down the wires to begin with, were the people that allowed everyone else, all the generations afterwards, to be able to communicate with people around the world. So these pioneers, the people that made the telephone industry, did an incredible chesed for the entire world. Before the Avos HaKadoshim came along, before Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov came along and introduced tefillah into the world, so basically we had no way of connecting. There was no real way, there was no concrete, substantial way of communicating with our Creator. So what Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov did was exactly that. That's where Reb Eli Lopian explains it, that they were like the pioneers of the telephone industry. They introduced communication. And that's what it's all about. The Gemara tells us, in Tiny Stuff based on the Pasuk, Ula avdoi b'chol levavachem. So the Gemara says, what is Eza Avodah Shebelev? What does it mean? Ula avdoi, serve Hashem, b'chol levavachem, with your heart. How do you serve Hashem with your heart? You can serve Hashem with your body. You can bring him coffee. You can serve anyone with your hand in a physical way. But how do you serve the Rebbeinu Shalom, which is what we say in Kriya Shema 3 times a day? Ula avdoi b'chol levavachem. Serve Hashem with your heart. How do you serve Hashem with your heart? Says the Gemara, Eza Avodah Shebelev zu tefillah. Okay, listen to this. Listen to this Maral Miprag. Unbelievable Maral Miprag. Rabbi said today we're just doing an introduction, and Be'ez Hashem, every day we'll try to work on something else, but it's an incredible introduction to understand what is davening. Before you open up your siddur, and you daven Ashra Yosher V'Yisech, and you open up a siddur and you daven Shemini Esra, who are you talking to? Says the Maral Miprag, the relationship, what is the Lashon of Avodah? Why is it that the Torah calls it Ula Avdoi b'chol levavachem? Serve Hashem. Where does Ula Avdoi come from? What's the root of the word? Eved. What is an Eved? An Eved is a slave. What's the definition of an Eved? The definition of an Eved has nothing. Basha kone Eved, kone Rabbi, the Gemara tells us. Which means an Eved has nothing on himself, right? An Eved can't own anything. Nothing belongs to him. Whatever he owns automatically goes to his master. That's the definition of an Eved. He's completely subjugated to his master. That's the best relationship with Hashem. Says the Maral. The reason why the Torah says Ula Avdai, Avoida, B'chol levavachem, to serve Hashem with your heart, Lashon serve, Lashon Eved, is the first thing a person has to do before he davens, is realize that he's a nothing. Everything comes from the Rebbeinu Shalom. And the Rebbeinu Shalom can give you everything. You're an Eved, the Rebbeinu Shalom is the master. That's why, says the Maral, Tefillah is described in the Torah as explained by Chazal in a Lashon of Avodah, in a Lashon of an Eved. That's what it is. The most incredible thing. The Arvei Nachal, in Parashas Vayakel, brings down that the Rebbeinu Shalom, in fact, wears a certain crown that's woven from the tefillahs of Klal Yisrael. Every tefillah that's uttered with pure kavanah is a beautiful gem, a beautiful diamond that the Rebbeinu Shem takes and wears it on his crown. Not only that, says the Arvei Nachal in Parshas V'eschanan, that tefillah is actually the key to the heavenly vault of blessing. If you want the key to the Rebbeinu Shem's vault of bracha, you want to be able to access the vault, walk in there and take whatever you want, says the Arvei Nachal, it's tefillah. Tefillah is one of the most powerful things that we have. I remember I received a phone call from a lady. She told me that she was in a marriage which didn't work out too well. And it was about a 25-year marriage. It was terrible. To get the get took years and years and years. She had to go through the tsar and the pain of being an aguna. She wasn't able to get remarried because she could never get. She went through terrible, terrible medical procedures where she was very, very sick. She needed serious surgery. She had a problem with parnasa on top of that as well. And she was telling me all of this, and I'm like, whatever. So she says to me, what do you think kept me going? Rabbi, what do you think? It was a hard situation. What can I answer to such a person that went through so much? So she says, Rabbi, I'll tell you what kept me going. My tehillim, my siddur. That's what kept me going. I knew I had a relationship with Hashem. I knew I could talk to Hashem. Yeah, I may not hear physically the answer back, but I knew that the Rebbeinu Shem was listening to me. And that relationship kept me going. You know what that means? That means, so often we go through hard situations, we go through hard times. We have to realize, if we build a relationship now, if we build our relationship with Tefillah, with our siddur now, it will make everything so much easier. We know, in the parashas that we're learning now, that Moshe Rabbeinu was told by the Rebbeinu Shem to go and save Klal Yisrael. Go down to Mitzrayim. Save Klal Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu says, me, I'm not a big speaker. I'm not one of these big dynamic speakers that can go up to the most powerful ruler of the world, Pharaoh, and tell him, let my people go. It's just not me. I don't do those things. It's just not for me. And one of the reasons why he said that is because the Torah tells us, or else fasaimu, I can't speak properly, I have a speech problem. Why do I have a speech problem? Because Chazal tell us in the Medrash that he was younger and he was in Pharaoh's palace, he took the coal instead of the gold and he put it to his lip, and because of that he burnt his lip, and it made him have problems with speaking. Asks the Ramban a famous kasha. I said, just ask Hashem to take it away. If that's the problem, say, God, you want me to go? No problem. Make me speak better. Make me have no problem with my lips. This will have no problem doing what you say. Answers the Ramban the most incredible yesod. Of course the Rebbeinu Shem would have done it, but Moshe Rabbeinu never asked. And if Moshe Rabbeinu never asked, he never got it. From this Ramban, you know what we see? Most incredible thing. Rav Shimshon Pinkus brings this also in the Sharm Tefillah in the beginning. That when a person is meant to get something, if you don't ask, you're not going to get. We'll talk about it later on Be'ez Hashem from Rabbi Yerucham and Das Torah, from Parashas Bereshis, Be'ez Hashem. But the yesod is there are so many things the Rebbeinu Shem wants to give you. He wants you to have a good life. He wants you to have a great parnasa, an easy parnasa, a wife, children, a house, everything. The Rebbeinu Shem is waiting to give it to you. Did you ask? Because if you didn't ask, how's Hashem going to give it to you? The Rebbeinu Shem is waiting. As the Arvei Nachal said, it's the key to the Rebbeinu Shem's vault of all of his treasures. Everything's in there. Reb Chaim Volozhin writes again in the Nefesh HaChaim, this is in Shar Beis, that we do not understand, we don't have the faintest idea, the koyach of tefillah. We don't understand what the koyach of tefillah is, meaning the Anshi Knesses HaGedoyla, some of them Gedolim Tzadikim Oilam, all of them, they packed into the words of tefillah. It's like dynamite. You just have to say it and boom, it explodes. The kavanas that they put in there are incredible. All we have to do is think about what we're saying. And we have to understand the koyach of tefillah. Right? Even the kavanas of the Ariyah Kodesh, all of these things, everything are nothing compared to the kavanas that the Anshe Knesset Gdolah put into our tefillah when we open up our siddur and we learn and we say Aleinu l'shabech ladoin hakol, and we say Avol etzin gol, and we say Ashrei Yeshvei veisecha, and we say Shmoneh Esra, and we say Krishma Bechus Krishma Ava Rabba. Do we understand what it means that they packed into the words? These are words from the Anshe Knesset Gdolah. These words, says Rav Chaim Volozhin, have the most incredible power that we don't even have. The Mabit brings in Sefer Beis Elokim that tefillah is a mitzvah in the Torah. It's a mitzvah like any other mitzvah. And people often say, I don't have kavanah. Like, I can't even daven if I don't have kavanah, right? It's a mitzvah. If you don't have kavanah when you pick up daleminim, you're not going to take out daleminim on Sukkot, because of course you are. Because it's a mitzvah, so I'm going to do it anyway. Same thing with tefillah. Sometimes we don't have the kavanah. Sometimes we don't have the best concentration. We're not into it. Do it anyway. That's the avodah. Do it anyway. You'll see. When you develop a relationship, and I've told this to people, who are going through a hard time, I'll often say to someone, they look at me like I'm crazy, but I'll often say, tell me something, when was the last time you spoke to God? I go, Rabbi came to you with like a shiloh with advice, and let's leave. No, when did you talk to Hashem? And often it's like, I don't know, I've done mincha before. No, I mean talk to Hashem, not say the words. When you actually talk to Hashem, and the more you do this, you'll build a relationship with the Rabbi Shalom. You'll build a relationship with your Creator that will change your life. Because everything that happens in your life, whether it's good times, whether it's bad times, can be used through tefillah. You know, they say when a person goes to the koisel and he sees somebody at the koisel crying his eyes out. He's crying his eyes out. You feel so bad. What's he going through? And you tap on the shoulder and you're like, is everything okay? Maybe I can get you something. Maybe you need some money to maybe something tragedy happened. Maybe I can help you. What happened? And he looks and he smiles. He says, no, it's okay. My last daughter got engaged last night, so I'm just coming here to thank the Rabbeinu Shalom. You know, we often only thank Hashem or go to Hashem where like things are tough. All of a sudden, like, where's Hashem? When things are going great. You having a good day today? You're alive? You could breathe? Could you see? Could you hear? Did your touch work? Thank Hashem. Have a relationship with Hashem. Don't wait till chas v'shalom something's not working, Rahman al-Litzlan, and all of a sudden you start davening like anything. Start davening when it's much, much easier. You know, where they asked the question, the Chovos HaLevavos asked this kasha and Cheshbon HaNefesh. He asked her, what is the purpose of tefillah? You think Hashem doesn't know what you need? God, give me parnasa! Well, Hashem doesn't know what you need, right? He doesn't know you need parnasa. So there's many answers, and we'll try to go through some of them as we go on. But the Chovos HaLevavos explains chas v'shalom. We're not here to change Hashem's mind. If Hashem wants to give you parnasa, give you parasa. If He doesn't want to, He won't. So you could say one of the answers, like we said earlier, and that is, if you don't ask, you're not going to get. But the Chovos HaLevavos gives us another answer. And he answers that what tefillah does is an incredible thing. It elevates the person. It makes you into a different person. By you davening, by you realizing nothing is yours, everything that you get is from Hashem, then all of a sudden, you've transformed yourself into a higher person. Once you've done that, you're on a different level. So if there was something that the Rebbeinu Shalom says you don't deserve, Hashem's going to say, I love it, go for it, you can have it now. Which means we've just found a new dimension of tefillah. Not only that which you were meant to get, you will get through tefillah, but even that which you were not meant to get, you'll get through tefillah. If you don't deserve a good parnasa, if you don't deserve a good wife, if you don't deserve shalom bayis, good children, health, whatever, if you ask, and you ask properly, and we'll discuss that as we go on, you will get it. And that's an incredible, incredible thing. Let me just end with two things, which I think are important. You know, we talk about tefillah, so we all daven, so we think like, you know, okay, but again, what I'm doing over here is not teaching you about davening, and I'm probably not even telling you anything you didn't know before. But it's like the Mesilas Yesharim says in the Hagdama. I'm not telling you Chedushim, I'm just reiterating that which you already know, and hopefully before you daven a mincha, a shachris, a mariv, it will machazik you a little bit. And Shlomo Zalman brings a beautiful mashal. He brings a mashal of a king that loved music. And he directed his musicians to gather the most finest instruments and to play together every morning. They played in a beautiful way. And they respected the king, and the king respected them. What an opportunity to play for the king in his presence. That was unbelievable. And they played with such enthusiasm because they knew that the king enjoyed it so much. Years and years went by, and these musicians passed away, but their sons took their places. But they didn't master the musical techniques of their father. They didn't keep the musical instruments tuned like their father. And worst of all, they didn't love the king like their fathers did before them. And to them it was just a custom. Our parents did it, so we're going to do it. You know, our fathers played, so we'll also play. It was a custom that we did. And eventually it became so shvach that the king said, I can't even listen to this anymore. And he stopped them from playing. Some of these kids decided to develop a renewed love and reverence for the king. And they understood why the king stopped them from listening. And they were determined to relearn what their fathers originally did, that forgotten art. And every morning, before setting out to the palace, they tuned their instruments, they practiced, they improved their skills, and they played. And all of a sudden, the music they played was now pleasing to the king. Says Rav Shlomo Zalman, we bring so much joy to the Melech Malchem Lochem when we daven. Sometimes it becomes a little bit of a minig. It becomes a custom. We just do it because out of rope. We need to. We have to daven Shachos, we have to daven Mincha, we have to daven Mar. We don't think about it. We have to put thought in it, and then it becomes unbelievable. And let me end, Rabbi, with one last incredible but very famous story. And that is, when the state of Israel was originally formed, Prime Minister Ben Gurion was appointed on the cabinet over there. Now, amongst those that were selected was somebody called Zalman Oren. Zalman Oren was a non-religious Jew, And he was the Minister of Education when the State of Israel was formed. Now, he was very, very secular, but he was a very sincere person, and he took his position in the government very, very seriously, and his wife was very proud of him. His wife, Zalman's wife, was also a secular Jew. And but what she did was one thing. There's one thing she did every week. She lit Shabbos candles. She didn't know anything else. She didn't understand anything else. But one thing she did, Erev Shabbos, she lit Shabbos candles. And every week she had a custom of praying, of davening that her child would be like the greatest Jew she ever knew, Ben Gurion, the Prime Minister of Israel. That, for her, that was the greatest Jew. It was unbelievable. And every single day, every single Friday, Erev Shabbos, she would light the candles and she would daven that her child be as great as Ben Gurion, her role model, the Prime Minister of Israel. And then there was a famous meeting with Ben Gurion and the Chazon Ish. Right? Everyone remembers there was a famous meeting. They discussed various things about the army. And this Zalman fellow, the Minister of Education, was actually president of the meeting with the Chazon Ish. And he comes home and he says to his wife, wow, I just met a malach. I met an angel. This Jew, I've never seen anything like it. He's an old man, but all the Jews listened to him, and his advice was so sound, was so amazing. I've never met anything like this before in my life. That's what she tells her. That's what Zalman tells his wife. That Friday night, she decides to change her tefillah. She no longer davens that her child will be like Ben Gurion, because now her husband says that this is someone that even Ben Gurion looks up to. She started to daven that her child should grow up like the Chazon Ish. She had no idea who the Chazon Ish, what he represented, what Torah is, nothing. But if that's what my husband and that's what the Prime Minister look up to, must be his choshev. And she started to daven. Rabbi, so years and years later, they realized that her grandson was a choshev Rosh Kollel here in Yerushalayim. Even though her grandparents were totally secular, totally not religious, because of the power of tefillah. The power of tefillah is so great. It could change anything. It could change our lives, change our families' lives, it could change Klal Yisrael's lives. Be'ez Hashem, tomorrow we shall continue.